Hello everyone and welcome to the Hippie Geeks. Say hello to Zoe. Lindsay brought her over to the house to let her play with our lab, but when Lindsay went outside and closed the screen door behind her, Zoe blasted right through. We were left with two happily playing dogs and a twisted pile of metal screen that used to be our sliding door. While it can be hard to imagine that you can repair that kind of damage, it's totally possible and something that anyone can do in an afternoon for about 20 bucks. Before we get started, here are the tools you're going to need. An X-Acto knife to trim the extra screen off of the door once everything is finished. A screwdriver to dig out the old spline from its groove and to push in the edges of the new spline. A pair of pliers to help pull out the old spline. I use a Leatherman because there are so many good tools in such a small package. Tape to hold the frame together while you replace the screen. A spline tool to groove the screen and embed the spline. And of course, the spline itself, which is what will hold the screen into the frame. Step 1 is to repair the frame. In our case, when Zoe busted through the door, two opposite corners popped apart. After placing the door on a flat surface, I'm going to lift the edges to get the corners to fit back together. It shouldn't be too hard to get them popped back in, just be patient and everything should go back in place. Step 2. Secure the corners. Once you get it back to looking like a door, you're going to want to get some tape on the corners to hold it all together. A screen door gets a lot of its rigidity from the screen itself, and you don't want the whole thing falling apart when it gets removed. Step 3. Remove the existing spline and screen. Now it's time to get down to business. Start at one corner and use the screwdriver and pliers to carefully pry the spline out from the groove. You don't want to damage the groove itself, and with a little work it should pop out. When you get to the handle, just unscrew the pieces carefully and pull it gently apart. Every door is going to be a little different, but it should be fairly easy. After that, work your way around the rest of the door, pulling all of the old spline out. Once you finish removing all of the old spline, pull the screen out of the grooves in the frame and carefully roll it up and put it away. You can use it later for other projects like a screen bottom bird feeder. Step 4. Rolling out the new screen. In our case, I bought a roll of aluminum, but you can also get vinyl that won't be as strong but will cost a little less. Make sure to leave some extra on each edge and cut off the majority of the excess to make it easier to work with. Step 5A. Creating the groove for the spline. Start out by centering the screen on the door. What I'll then do is take a few pieces of tape along one edge to keep it in place while you start the grooving. Here is where things get a little tricky and the place that you're most likely to make a mistake. If you look on your spline tool, you'll see that the disc on one end has a ridge and the other side has a notch. You're going to want to use the end with the ridge and gently press the screen into the groove. Don't try to push it in all the way with one shove. It'll wind up ripping right through the screen, leaving you with holes along the edge. You want to make several passes, pushing it in further each time. Take your time and it will turn out great. Step 5B. Inserting the spline in the groove. Next, we're going to go over the same area and insert the spline. Place the end of your spline at one corner and using the notched end of the spline tool, work it into the groove. Again, don't rush it as you'll be making several passes. The first pass should just get the spline set in there so it won't move, pushing it in further with each successive pass. Work it in until you have the whole edge covered, cut off the spline at the end, and push the end into the groove with a screwdriver. Work your way around all four sides until the grooves are all set with spline. I usually do the two long sides first, followed by the short sides. Make sure that you're keeping an even pressure against it as you're doing this to get a nice taut screen in the frame. Here you can see me working in the final spline on the end of the door. You can see why we didn't want to leave too much extra screen around the edges, as once it flips up it would start getting in the way. Step 6. Cut off the extra screen. Using an X-Acto knife or other sharp blade, work your way around the edge of the door, cutting off the excess screen. Be careful not to cut the spline itself or the screen portion of the door, ruining the hard work you've done so far. Also be sure to reinstall the handle hardware that we took off earlier once all the excess is trimmed off. There you have it, a freshly repaired screen door. I hope that this video was able to help you replace your screen, and would love to hear down in the comments the stories about why you needed to replace it. If this is your first time here on the Hippie Geeks, it'd be wonderful to have you subscribe. This channel is all about helping you unleash your life and create a world that you love. Fixing something yourself is an amazing way to not only help out your wallet and the planet, it just feels great to be able to do it. Subscribe, check out some of our other videos, and come back every Wednesday for fresh content. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one.